Hello everyone, we have Alexa Hubley here, who just came off the main stage with a speech about how to compete in a saturated market.
Yes, I did.
Alexa is a marketing strategist, that's correct, and currently working at CXL,
Yep.
Commercial Excel, and previously in Helpscout.
Yes.
Which one was better?
Oh, CXL is way better.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so much more fun. I love working with Pep too. You've met him, right? He's awesome, and he's my direct boss. So basically, what I like about Pep is that he ultimately will ream you out. He doesn't hold anything back. He's very direct, but he ultimately also always helps you get to the right decision. So yeah, love you, Pep, if you're watching this. So.
Kisses.
Yeah.
So how did the talk go? Was it everything went according to the plan?
Yes, everything did go according to plan. The only kind of surprise was that it was much faster than I thought. So I have been rehearsing for days in my hotel room, and it's been like 31 minutes, and I was like, oh, they told me I can't go over 30 minutes. They're like, you have to get off the stage at 27 minutes. And then it ended up being like 25. So I think it's just, I spoke really quickly, which I tend to do obviously when I'm talking. And so I'm sorry everyone if I was talking a little too fast for you at 3 in the afternoon, but watch the recap video and hopefully you'll catch everything again. But that was the only surprising part.
So if you had to summarize the main message that you wanted to give to the crowd today?
I would say that ultimately the most important aspect of product marketing and product lifecycle marketing is positioning and having really clear key messages. And that's ultimately how you create winning marketing campaigns. It's not just only, executing really creative, interesting content. You actually need the strategy behind it and the messaging and the story that's relevant to your product that connects with people. And so that's ultimately what product lifecycle marketing is it's just a communication strategy to help you achieve your ultimate goal.
Well, you just answered one of my other questions. That's
okay, good.
Awesome. and
we can just wrap this interview up here. Is that what you're saying?
Not yet. What would you say is the main difference in product lifecycle marketing between software products and e-commerce products?
I think that's a good question, and honestly, I don't think, because product lifecycle marketing is more of just like a strategy. It's like a guiding framework. So it can be applicable to SaaS, it can be applicable to e-commerce, it can be applicable to just regular commerce, because it's ultimately about positioning your product in a way that makes it sell and makes people want to buy it. And so if you think about e-commerce, say you think about makeup, like a company that sells makeup online, what you want to do for product lifecycle marketing is if you say you have a makeup suite, but you're launching an entirely new lipstick or something, you need to make sure that you're actually treating that product, that new product, not just as an extension of your suite of marketing or of makeup that you provide, but you actually make sure that you're treating it with the right story and positioning and lifecycle goal that it requires, which is introducing it to the market, not just treating it like it's already in the growth phase.
Okay.
Is that clear, or is that confusing?
Yeah, no,
okay.
I mean, that was pretty clear. I will watch this video afterwards again from the beginning, just to make it sure I understood.
Yeah, because I'm talking too quickly, or?
No. It's just interesting concepts that you have to think about for a while.
Yeah.
One interesting question I had, how do you actually identify that a product or a brand has entered a decline phase? Because you'd want to think that, oh, that's just a blip or something if you look at the data or whatever.
I think the clearest indication of your product entering the decline phase is when sales start to shrink. So people aren't buying it as much as they were before. If you were that dominant market player, but someone else is maybe coming up and capturing some of your market, your customers are churning a little bit more than you thought, or you're not selling as much as you used to, that's an indication you're moving into the decline phase. And so what product lifecycle marketing does as a strategy is it helps you spot the early signs of that transition so that you can slow the rate of decline and maybe extend the length of your maturity phase.
So it's important to understand that, okay, we're in a decline phase, yeah?
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah, because it's probably hard nobody wants to do that.
I know, you have to admit it too, that you have a problem, and ultimately you have to figure out like a big way to either milk your brand or reinvent completely so that you don't just end up obsolete.
Do you know of any example where a brand or a product has really turned it around?
Okay, so a good example of maybe it's just like because I'm a millennial and it's like nostalgia, but an example of a brand that I think just like constantly makes a comeback like every 10 years is the Rubik's Cube. You remember those things?
Yeah.
Like I played with them when I was like in elementary school.
When did it come back?
Well, I mean, it's kind of constantly making like a 10-year comeback. So I remember again when I was in university, like people I knew were buying them again, and it was sort of like this like nostalgia thing, sort of like Tamagotchis, where those were really big when we were in elementary school, and then all of a sudden they made a comeback and got popular again because Katy Perry like wore them to the Grammys, I think, or something. But so these are examples of brands that like basically became obsolete, but then made a comeback later on through interesting nostalgia-focused marketing. Nintendo does this really, really well too. Pokemon, like remember when Pokemon came back and like everyone, I still see people on the subway all the time like playing Pokemon on their phone or whatever, right? And so you're like running around the city capturing them. These are all just brands that have done a good job of using marketing to not just slow the rate of decline, but like take a company that was, or a brand that was actually obsolete and revive it.
Are there any common mistakes marketers make in the product introduction phase, in the beginning, that you know of, like, oh yeah, this one everyone makes, and what should I do?
So I think ultimately it's not necessarily just in the introduction phase, but I think I touched on this a little bit. And like, as a marketer, I love checklists. Like I love knowing that I've accomplished all of the things that are on my list to launch something. But then it's usually just sort of like wipe your hands clean and move on. And that's actually a really bad strategy because you don't learn a lot from what you're doing. You finish your checklist and then your campaign's over, you've launched the thing, you forget about it, and then you move on. This happens all the time. You launch a campaign and you just move on, and then a year later, you're like, oh, we could have done something else with that. We could have kept that campaign going, or we could have used these learnings to make it better. So I think that's kind of the common thing that a lot of marketers do that they really should avoid. I know it kind of sucks when a marketing campaign just like carries on forever. That can also feel really annoying, but it's actually really effective if you can at least constantly keep your learnings continuing with your marketing campaigns and then improving them over time. So just keeping the engine running.
So learning in retrospect of
yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's sometimes hard because you want to kind of move on. So how do you actually make that people do that in practice? If you are the manager and you have your marketing guys, and how do you actually make them to, or not make them, but motivate them to go in retrospect and evaluate how they did, and what kind of insights they can get from that and do better next time?
I mean, I'm their boss, so I can just make them do it. But at the same time, I think you have to educate. You always have to like teach people the value of it first, because often what I find with junior marketers or people that are newer to marketing is that they don't actually have the skills yet to analyze and understand what they're learning from a campaign launch. So you actually have to teach them that skill by, usually what I do is I'll do it first. I'll analyze it first, I'll explain the thing, what the learnings are, then I'll give them the task of implementing it, and then the next time a campaign comes around, you task them with replicating the thing that you did. And so you teach people ultimately how to become better at optimizing the learning. Yeah, you should. You manage a team? Yeah. Do you find it tricky to motivate them?
Let's talk about you better next time about this. One question I wanted to ask you is, what's the most influential book for you in terms of marketing? And what would you suggest marketers over here?
I got a good one. It's called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. And it actually will blow your mind, because it talks about how much bad strategy is actually in the world everywhere, in politics, in government, in engineering, in marketing. And what it talks about is what a real strategy is and why there's so much bad strategy everywhere and why businesses fail when they don't have a good strategy. And so ultimately the crux or the core message of the book is that a good strategy is actually very simple. It shouldn't be like fluffy words. There should never be like 6 buzzwords in your strategy doc. That's like something to definitely avoid. But what it talks about is that it should actually just be a really simple story, and it actually should be something that's quite obvious. So it's sort of like if things were, going really, really badly and your business is declining, for example, what would you absolutely do to bring it around? Usually if you ask a question that way, people know how to answer it. They would say, oh, we might, reorganize this department, or we might, lay X person off, or we might try building this product or only focusing in this one specific area. But when you don't frame it in that way, people tend to go down all these bad paths and not execute the right strategy that will actually help them grow. So the book is mind-blowing. It's really, really good.
I'll definitely check it out. I haven't heard about it, actually. Do you yourself consider writing a book?
Oh, that'd be sweet. I think if I did write a book, though, I would write a children's book.
Okay.
I really like kids, so yeah, I'd probably want to write something that's very like goofy and weird. So
what do you think about the event?
It's really great. Thank you so much for having me, Scandiweb, and inviting me. I feel like I'm part of the team, and thank you for my office tour and lunch. It's been great. I would definitely come back and definitely recommend this event. It's really impressive, like what you've been able to accomplish in your first year of an event. Honestly, like so many events in their first year are just like shit shows. Like, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but they are. And this event's like, there's been no hiccups from what I've seen. So, and like the crowd's really cool, really young. Yeah, I'm really impressed.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good feedback. And was there any speech that you really liked today?
I really liked
other than your
yeah,
speech,
I'm not gonna congratulate myself. I really liked my colleague, to be honest, and I'm not saying that just because he's my colleague, but Ben LeBay's talk on optimizing mobile experiences for e-commerce using voice of the customer data. It's a mouthful, but it went into all these really interesting research methods and styles of doing research that make better mobile experiences for people, that I felt like I learned a ton of things, and we worked together. So I should be doing all of these things, but I actually am not. So I found it really effective, and I would definitely, if you have time, check out his talk.
Yeah, I missed it, unfortunately. I'll definitely check it out. And you were actually also the first speaker who came to Riga, who flew
yes,
in.
I
So
was.
you were the first one. So you had a few days to explore, and it's your first time in Riga. You're from Canada. So what do you think about Canada? No.
What do I think about Canada?
That's a joke. What do you think about Riga?
I love Riga, honestly. I was really taken aback with it because I thought it was going to be really cold and like snowy, and I didn't really know what to expect. But it's really pretty. The old town's really cool. I love beer, and there's lots of really good beer in Riga. And Latvian people are really friendly, from what I've experienced. It also feels like a really safe city. So I don't know, some of the things I've done is I went to the spa. I love that in the Baltics and in Scandinavia in general, like in Nordic countries, people spa everywhere. So I did that. I went to a brewery. I walked around the old town. I went to the church, St. Peter's Church. I tried to go to the occupation museum, but it was like under construction or something. But I did a lot in my time here because I really wanted to just like experience the culture. Oh, I took the bus. So I was like riding solo on public transit. That's the best way to see a city. Yeah, I had a great time. Would recommend.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming, and we really appreciate it. I loved your talk, so thanks a lot for coming and for coming here to answer the questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good interviewing with you.